The immense, cerulean-veined obsidian dome of the Grand Conclave of Xylos pulsed with a low, resonant thrum, a sound that permeated the very silicate substructure of the chamber and vibrated deep within the chitinous exoskeletons of the assembled delegates. It was a sound of ancient power, of millennia of galactic governance, now overlaid with an almost imperceptible tremor of disquiet. 1,000 light-years of settled space, billions of sapients across scores of worlds, had centered their collective consciousness within this sanctuary, a crucible of galactic policy and fear. The holographic projection suspended at the dome's zenith shimmered, depicting a stark spiral arm of the galaxy, and within it a minuscule, unremarkable system designated Sector 7 Gamma 9. It was from this point, this insignificant dust mote, that the unsettling anomaly had originated. High Elder Giltharn, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the swirling nebula of the projection, extended a slender, articulated limb, his voice a series of deep, sonorous clicks and whistles, amplified and translated by the conclave's integrated systems. The reports remain consistent. The entities from Sector 7 Gamma 9, designation humans by their own transmission, exhibit unpredictable patterns of behavior. Their technological progression, while rapid, appears to defy conventional logical parameters. We have observed instances of seemingly gratuitous self-endangerment, followed by periods of profound, almost meditative stasis. Their initial transmissions upon first contact were of an almost artistic, rather than diplomatic, nature. A low murmur rippled through the tiered amphitheater, a chorus of varied biological responses, hisses, soft croons, the rustling of scales, the clicking of mandibles. Elder Valerius of the Cathar Collective, a being of luminous, crystalline facets, projected a faint aura of unease. Unpredictable is a term that grants them too much credit, High Elder. Illogical is a more accurate descriptor. Their initial probes, upon entering our observational space, displayed a profound ignorance of established protocols. No recognition signals, no diplomatic overtures of the customary form. Only an insistent, almost crude repetition of mathematical primes and a sequence of what their linguists termed musical compositions. A species that approaches first contact with abstract mathematics and resonant frequencies, rather than a strategic display of force or diplomatic entreaties, is a species either profoundly naive or profoundly deceptive. A delegate from the Sillark hegemony, a massive bioluminescent fungal growth that slowly expanded and contracted within its containment field, emitted a soft, mournful chime. Deception implies intent. Naivete implies vulnerability. Neither aligns with the data regarding their internal societal structures. Their history, as extrapolated from their initial, surprisingly open data packets, is rife with internecine conflict, yet simultaneously demonstrates an astonishing capacity for self-sacrifice and collective endeavor. They wage war upon themselves with a ferocity that chills the deepest core of our analysis matrices, yet they also construct monumental collaborative projects that span continents for no immediate practical gain, solely for aesthetic or exploratory purposes. They are a paradox. Elder Lyra, a slender, avian-like being whose iridescent plumage shifted with every subtle emotional shift, angled her head, her gaze fixed on the minuscule projected system. The paradox extends to their perceived power. Our initial estimations, based on their orbital defenses and early propulsion systems, placed them as a nascent civilization, perhaps capable of limited interstellar travel within their own system, but certainly no threat to established powers. Yet their recent rapid advancements, while still seemingly behind our own in many core metrics, possess a startling symmetry. Their energy signatures, when analyzed through conventional spectroscopy, register as relatively low. Their weapon systems from a distance appear rudimentary. Yet there is a persistent, unsettling discrepancy between our projections of their capabilities and the observed effects of their occasional, seemingly accidental demonstrations. High Elder Giltharn brought a larger, heavier limb down upon the obsidian surface of his podium, the sound echoing with the gravitas of a final pronouncement. Precisely. We have observed their FTL signatures. They are inefficient. They consume vast quantities of energy for what appears to be relatively modest velocity. Their defensive screens, while present, register as permeable to our standard assault protocols. Their offensive weaponry, again, appears to operate on principles we have long since surpassed. And yet, his multifaceted eyes swept across the gathered representatives, each face a mosaic of ancient wisdom and burgeoning concern. And yet, our probes, the Autonomous long-range observation platforms we dispatched to their system's periphery have ceased transmission. All of them, without a single warning, without a single distress beacon. They simply stopped. 11 distinct platforms, each equipped with advanced stealth technology and defensive countermeasures, vanished from our sensor network. The last data packet from Platform Beta 7 registered an anomalous energy signature, a localized, high-frequency burst, entirely unlike anything we have ever recorded from their systems. And then, silence. A collective intake of breath, or its biological equivalent, swept through the chamber. The Cathar elder Valerius shifted uneasily, his crystalline facets dimming slightly. Are we to believe a nascent civilization, one we previously assessed as barely capable of coherent interstellar travel, possesses the means to utterly neutralize our most advanced observational platforms? Platforms designed to withstand direct assault from established military vessels. The data suggests no other conclusion, High Elder Jaltharn stated, his voice now a deeper, more insistent series of clicks. Our long-range scans indicate no significant debris fields, no residual energy signatures that would suggest conventional destruction. It is as if the probes simply ceased to exist. Their disappearance is absolute. A delegation from the Krill Collective, squat, heavily armored beings whose voices rumbled like subterranean tremors, projected a series of intricate geometric patterns onto the central display. Our analysis teams postulate a theoretical energy absorption field, one of such efficiency that it could dismantle matter at a subatomic level without generating waste energy or detectable debris. Such technology is purely hypothetical, requiring an understanding of quantum mechanics and gravitational manipulation far beyond even our own most advanced research. Are we to accept that these humans have achieved this? High Elder Jaltharn considered the geometric patterns, his complex eyes narrowing. Perhaps not in the way we conceive it. Perhaps their understanding, their very approach to physics is fundamentally different. Their history reveals a species that often arrives at complex solutions through unconventional means, through what they term intuition and experimentation, rather than strict adherence to established theoretical frameworks. They built their first orbital platforms not from meticulous long-term resource allocation and automated construction, but through a series of increasingly ambitious, often perilous, manned expeditions. Their initial FTL drive prototypes were notoriously unstable, yet they persisted, sending live pilots into what we would consider suicidal tests. Lyra the avian elder preened a shimmering feather, her gaze thoughtful. They are, in essence, a species of extreme risk-takers. They embrace uncertainty as a path to discovery. This is a profound divergence from our own species, which primarily seeks to eliminate uncertainty, to codify and predict. Their very existence, their progression, appears to be an elaborate improvisation. And that improvisation, Elder Lyra, makes them profoundly dangerous, Valerius countered, his voice sharp. A species that operates without predictable parameters is a wild card in the galactic deck. They cannot be reasoned with through conventional diplomatic channels if their logic is fundamentally alien to ours. They cannot be intimidated if their perception of risk is skewed. We must establish a clear course of action. Do we attempt further contact, risking further inexplicable losses, or do we establish a quarantine, a defensive perimeter around their system, and observe them from a greater, safer distance? The fungal delegate from the Sillark hegemony pulsed with a vibrant, almost aggressive bioluminescence. A quarantine may be perceived as an act of hostility. Their historical data indicates an almost immediate and often disproportionate retaliatory response to perceived threats. Their powerless status, as initially assessed, may have been a dangerous miscalculation. We must proceed with extreme caution, lest we provoke an entity whose full capabilities remain utterly unknown, yet whose initial demonstrations are undeniably unsettling. The debate raged for cycles. The Grand Conclave, usually a bastion of cool, calculated logic, found itself gripped by a pervasive unease. The humans were an enigma, a flicker of light in the vast darkness that refused to conform to any established galactic classification. Were they a burgeoning threat, a philosophical challenge, or simply an anomaly destined to burn itself out? No consensus could be reached. The political fear of an unknown, unpredictable entity mingled with the profound philosophical challenge they presented. The decision was postponed, delayed by the sheer weight of their uncertainty, a silence that echoed ominously in the cerulean vein Cha. Embert. Weeks bled into months. The galactic powers maintained a cautious, distant vigil. No further probes were dispatched. Instead, an elaborate network of deep space gravitational sensors and subspace resonance detectors was established, forming a wide, silent cordon around Sector 7 Gamma 9. The humans remained within their designated system, their activities a source of constant, low-level chatter within the conclave. They continued their rapid technological progression, their energy signatures subtly shifting, their FTL pulses becoming slightly more efficient, though still far from matching the established galactic standards. The disappearance of the 11 probes remained an unresolved mystery, a cold knot in the collective consciousness of the assembled species. Then a new development. A distinct, powerful FTL signature registered on the outer perimeter of the cordon, not from within Sector 7 Gamma 9, but from a previously uncharted vector deep within the galactic arm. The signature was unique, unlike any known vessel or species. It was fast, uncomfortably fast. It bypassed established FTL lanes, ignored gravitational well signatures, and cut a path through nebulous dust clouds with an unnerving precision. It was on a direct trajectory for Sector 7 Gamma 9. High Elder Jaltharn reconvened the conclave with an urgency that rippled through the entire apparatus of galactic governance. The central projection now displayed the new trajectory, a bright, searing line cutting across the void, aiming for the human homeworld. "This signature," he clicked, his voice edged with a new, sharper concern, "belongs to the Xylar Imperium, specifically to one of their long-range exploratory fleets designated Harbinger. They are notorious for their aggressive expansionist policies, their ruthless acquisition of resources, and their utter disregard for pre-existing territorial claims. This is not an act of peaceful exploration." Elder Valerius of the Cathar Collective projected a display of Xylar vessel schematics, their sleek, predatory forms bristling with heavy weaponry. The Harbinger fleet is known for its pacification protocols. They identify nascent civilizations, assess their resource potential, and then integrate them into the Imperium through persuasive means. This often involves overwhelming displays of force. They value power above all else. They will not be deterred by diplomatic overtures from a species they perceive as insignificant. The Krill delegate rumbled. "The Xylar Imperium operates on a simple principle. If you are weak, you are a resource. If you are strong, you are a rival. These humans, as they appear to the Xylar, are undoubtedly destined to be categorized as a resource. The Xylar will not concern themselves with the nuances of our data. They will see a relatively undeveloped system, ripe for the taking." Lyra, the avian elder, ruffled her feathers, her usually calm demeanor now strained. "This presents a catastrophic dilemma. If the humans truly possess some hidden capability, some asymmetric defense, then a direct confrontation with the Xylar Imperium could escalate into a conflict of unforeseen scale. If they do not, then their subjugation, or worse, their extinction, is imminent. And we, the Conclave, are bound by the Covenant of Non-Interference, which prohibits direct military intervention in the affairs of nascent civilizations, unless they pose an existential threat to the wider galaxy. Their existence, Elder Lyra, is already posing a philosophical threat to our understanding of the galaxy," Valerius stated, his crystalline form pulsing with renewed intensity. "But the Covenant is clear. We cannot intervene. To do so would set a dangerous precedent, inviting chaos across countless systems. Our mandate is to observe, to advise, and to protect the established order, not to act as arbiters of every nascent species' survival." High Elder Jaltharn surveyed the chamber, the faces a mixture of resignation, fear, and philosophical anguish. "The Xylar fleet will reach Sector 7 Gamma 9 within 2 of our standard cycles. We must make a decision. Do we merely observe as the Harbinger fleet descends upon the humans, risking the unleashing of an unknown force, or do we break centuries of galactic law and attempt to intercede, however subtly?" The debate was agonizing, protracted. The weight of galactic law pressed down on them, yet the memory of the 11 silent probes, the profound unpredictability of the humans, gnawed at their collective resolve. Ultimately, the Covenant held sway. The decision was made. The Conclave would maintain its distant vigil. The Xylar Imperium, operating outside the jurisdiction of the Conclave due to their unilateral expansionist policies, would proceed unchecked. The humans would face the Harbinger fleet alone. A palpable silence descended upon the Grand Conclave, a heavier, more oppressive silence than before. It was the silence of helplessness, of moral quandary, and of profound, unspoken fear for what was to come. The projected trajectory of the Xylar fleet continued its relentless, luminous march towards the unassuming blue-green marble of the human homeworld. The Xylar Harbinger fleet was a brutal symphony of power. Its arrival in Sector 7 Gamma 9 was announced not by diplomatic hails, but by the raw, unfettered surge of its manifold FTL drives, rippling across the void like a wave of pure, concentrated aggression. 8 capital ships, their hulls gleaming with predatory efficiency, were flanked by a multitude of smaller, faster attack craft, forming a menacing arrowhead formation. Their primary target, the human homeworld, a vibrant blue sphere that, from their vantage point, pulsed with tempting, untapped energy signatures. Commander Vilax of the Xylar Imperium, a towering, armored being with predatory, multifaceted eyes, surveyed the human system from the command bridge of the flagship, the Ravager. His voice, a harsh, guttural rumble, cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. Initial scans are consistent with intelligence, a nascent species, primitive energy defenses. Their FTL signatures are laughably inefficient, no discernible strategic military presence beyond their primary homeworld. His tactical officer, J-Car, a smaller, leaner Xylar, clicked a claw against his data slate. "They are attempting to hail us, Commander. Low-frequency signals. Standard diplomatic protocols, albeit amateurishly executed. They appear to be requesting identification and intent." Vilax scoffed, a deep, contemptuous sound. "Ignore them. Their requests are irrelevant. Prepare standard pacification protocols. Send a single, direct message. Surrender or face immediate obliteration. Then prepare to engage their orbital defenses. I want their primary power grid neutralized within minutes. No protracted engagements. Swift, decisive, we will demonstrate the futility of resistance." On the Grand Conclave's projection, the Xylar fleet shimmered with the energy of imminent action. The Xylar message, translated instantly by the Conclave's network, echoed through the chamber, a stark declaration of intent. The assembled delegates watched, their collective biological processes suspended, a heavy dread in the air. This was it, the moment of truth for the enigmatic humans. The response from the human homeworld was unexpected. There was no immediate panic, no frantic scrambling of what paltry defenses they possessed. Instead, a single clear transmission in the Xylar's own language resonated through the void, cutting through the static of the Xylar fleet's preparation for attack. The voice was calm, measured, devoid of fear or aggression. "This is Human Command, Sector 7 Gamma 9. We have received your transmission. Your stated intent to demand surrender or initiate obliteration has been duly noted. We respectfully advise you to reconsider your current trajectory and intentions. This system is claimed territory under the principles of self-determination. Continued hostile advance will be met with commensurate defensive measures. We repeat, reconsider your intentions. Do not proceed further." Commander Vilax on the Ravager's bridge froze, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. "Commensurate defensive measures from them?" he snarled, a low, dangerous sound. "They speak of self-determination to the Xylar Imperium. They dare to advise us. They are fools. Engage their orbital defenses immediately. Target their primary energy conduits. Show them the meaning of obliteration." But before J-Car could relay the command, another transmission, almost simultaneous, emanated from the human homeworld. This time it was a data burst, intricate and dense, directly addressed to the Xylar flagship. It contained a single, chilling visual, a projection of a Xylar capital ship, identical to the Ravager, dissolving into a shower of crystalline particles, not exploding but simply ceasing to be. The process was utterly silent, horrifyingly efficient. And then, a series of complex mathematical equations and theoretical physics schematics scrolled across the display, incomprehensible to the Xylar, but ending with a single, clear line of text. "This is a demonstration of our commensurate defensive measures. We still advise reconsideration." A stunned silence fell over the Ravager's bridge. Vilax felt a cold tremor, a sensation he had not experienced since his first encounter with a fully armed Krill battle group. The image, it was impossible. No known weapon, no known energy field could achieve such a precise, silent disintegration. Not even the mythical technologies spoken of in ancient Xylar legends. "Analysis," Vilax roared, his voice betraying a hint of desperation. "What was that? What did they just show us?" J-Car, his claws trembling slightly, manipulated his data slate. "Commander, our systems cannot parse the data. The physics involved, it defies our current understand." "Ding, it appears to be a localized quantum destabilization field. It unweaves matter at the subatomic level, completely." Impossible, Vilax hissed. No species possesses such technology, not even the ancient Giltharn, not even the precursor civilizations. It must be a trick, a sophisticated holographic projection. They are attempting to bluff us. Commander, Jakar interjected, his voice tight with unease. Their energy signatures, they haven't changed. They are still registering as relatively low. There is no massive power surge to indicate the activation of a weapon of that scale. It is consistent with the previous anomaly. The disappearance of the Conclave's probes, no detectable energy output, no debris, just cessation. On the Grand Conclave's projection, the Xylar fleet remained frozen, its momentum halted, its aggressive posturing suddenly inert. The image of the dissolving Xylar capital ship had been broadcast throughout the Conclave's network. A collective gasp, a myriad of biological reactions, swept through the chamber. Elder Valerius's crystalline facets glowed with an intensity born of astonishment. Lyra's feathers were ruffled, her beak slightly agape. High Elder Giltharn, however, remained impassive, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the display, a slow, almost imperceptible clicking sound emanating from his intricate mandibles. The silence from the Xylar fleet persisted. It was a silence of profound shock, of an empire accustomed to overwhelming force suddenly confronted with an unknown, terrifying power that rendered their own might utterly irrelevant. Then from the human homeworld, another transmission. Calm, measured, professional. This is human command. We detect a cessation of hostile advance. This is acceptable. We still advise withdrawal from our system. Be advised, our defensive protocols are now active. Any further aggressive maneuvers will trigger an automated response. This is not a threat. It is a statement of operational parameters. Commander Vilax slammed a fist against his command console. Automated response? They are claiming an automated defense system capable of that? It is a bluff, it must be. They are trying to scare us off. We have overwhelming force. We will not be deterred by a mere projection. His words, however, lacked conviction. The image of the disintegrating capital ship was seared into his memory. Commander, Jakar ventured, his voice barely a whisper. What if it isn't a bluff? What if the Conclave's missing probes? What if this is how they disappeared? Silently, completely. A wave of palpable fear rippled through the Ravager's bridge crew. The Xylar Imperium understood power. They understood conquest. But they did not understand, could not comprehend, a power that defied all their known laws of physics, a power that operated with such chilling, silent efficiency. Vilax, against all his instincts, against the ingrained ruthlessness of his species, hesitated. His empire had never retreated, but his empire had never faced this. The very concept of their power being rendered irrelevant by a species they had deemed powerless was an affront to their existence, but the alternative, the utter silent annihilation. Then the humans spoke again. This is human command. We detect continued hesitation. We reiterate our advice for immediate withdrawal. We have no desire for conflict. Our intention is self-preservation and the continued advancement of our civilization. However, we are prepared to defend these principles with the full extent of our capabilities. The previous demonstration was a singular, targeted discharge. Our automated defenses can replicate this effect across multiple targets simultaneously, without degradation of efficiency. We hope this information clarifies our position. The implications of that statement struck Vilax with the force of a gravitic torpedo. Multiple targets, simultaneously, without degradation. It meant the entire Harbinger fleet could simply vanish, and the humans were stating this not as a boast, not as a threat, but as a calm, logical statement of fact. They were not gloating, they were informing. Vilax stared at the blue-green marble of the human homeworld, a profound, chilling realization dawning on him. These humans were not primitive. They were not merely advanced. They were operating on an entirely different plane of understanding. Their perceived lack of conventional power was not weakness, but a profound misinterpretation. Their calm demeanor was not naivete, but the quiet confidence of a species that possessed such overwhelming, asymmetric power that bluster and aggression were simply unnecessary. Retreat, Vilax rasped, the word tasting like ash in his mouth. Full retreat. Immediate FTL jump. Do not engage, do not linger. Get us out of this system, now. A collective sigh of relief, audible even to the monitoring systems of the Grand Conclave, swept through the Ravager's bridge. The Xylar flee. An instrument of fear and conquest, turned as one, its powerful engines flaring and vanished into FTL space, leaving Sector 7 Gamma 9 in a sudden, profound silence. The Grand Conclave was a storm of clicks, whistles, chimes, and agitated projections. The Xylar retreat, swift and absolute, had sent shockwaves through the established galactic order. The visual of the disintegrating Xylar capital ship played on a continuous loop, analyzed, dissected, and debated by every species present. High Elder Xyltharn finally brought a heavy limb down, silencing the cacophony. The Xylar Imperium, the most aggressive and feared expansionist power in this quadrant, retreated, not engaged, not outmaneuvered, but simply driven away by a single terrifying demonstration. And the humans, their calm, logical communication, their complete lack of aggression even in the face of annihilation, this changes everything. Elder Valerius of the Cathar Collective, his facets now glowing with a mixture of awe and philosophical reevaluation, projected the data packets from the humans again. Their communication was not a bluff. It was a precise, technical explanation of their capabilities. They were not attempting to intimidate. They were providing information. Their ethical framework appears to prioritize clarity and minimal harm, even to a hostile aggressor. They simply stated their operational parameters. It is an entirely alien approach to conflict resolution. And their technology, Lyra the avian elder twittered, her plumage shimmering with excitement. A localized quantum destabilization field to unweave matter at the subatomic level, without energy spikes, without debris. This is not merely advanced technology, it is a fundamental reinterpretation of the laws of physics. They are not merely ahead of us, they are playing a different game entirely. The Krill delegate rumbled, his patterns now displaying intricate theoretical constructs. Our analysis teams are already attempting to reverse engineer the principles from the limited data. It is proving challenging. The mathematical frameworks alone are beyond our current understanding. It suggests a civilization that has transcended many of the physical limitations we still operate under. They are, in essence, powerless in the conventional sense because they do not need conventional power. They bypass it. And the probes, High Elder Xyltharn mused, his voice a low series of clicks. The 11 silent probes, it becomes clear now, they were not destroyed in a conventional sense. They were simply disassembled, unweaved, without a trace. The humans possessed this capability all along, and they chose to remain silent. They chose to not retaliate to our intrusion, even when they knew we were monitoring them. The Sillark hegemony pulsed with a deep, resonant hum, a sound of profound reflection. They allowed themselves to be underestimated. They tolerated our intrusions. They observed our observation of them. They waited until a direct threat to their sovereignty manifested before revealing even a fraction of their true capabilities. This implies a strategic depth, a patience, and a self-restraint that is utterly unparalleled in galactic history. Valerius nodded, his facets glowing with renewed understanding. They are not naive. They are not illogical. They are profoundly logical, but their logic is built upon a different set of foundational principles. Their self-endangerment, their exploration, their artistic expressions. These are not random acts. They are expressions of a species driven by curiosity, by the pursuit of knowledge and experience, rather than by a singular drive for conquest or resource acquisition. And their capacity for both self-sacrifice and collective endeavor now appears in a new light. It is a dedication to their species, survival and advancement, pursued with a clarity and focus that renders them terrifyingly efficient when threatened. High Elder Xyltharn stood, his imposing form commanding the attention of the conclave. We misjudged them, profoundly. We saw their lack of conventional displays of power as weakness, their unconventional behavior as unpredictability. We failed to recognize that true power for some species lies not in overt displays of force, but in the quiet mastery of fundamental principles, in a philosophical depth that informs every action. Their initial transmissions, their musical compositions, their mathematical primes, these were not random. They were in essence a declaration of their nature, a species of profound intellect, of deep cultural understanding, and of a mastery over the universe that far surpasses our own. They were telling us who they were, and we were too arrogant to listen. The Xylar Imperium has been humbled, Lyra stated, her voice thoughtful. They will not challenge the humans again. The galaxy has been redefined. The balance of power has been irrevocably shifted. But what now? How d? Oh, we approach a species of such immense, subtle power. One that chose to wait, to observe, to only reveal themselves when directly provoked. High Elder Xyltharn's multifaceted eyes swept across the gathered representatives. We must approach them with humility, with respect. We must extend a genuine invitation for diplomatic contact, not from a position of power, but from a position of profound admiration and a sincere desire for understanding. We must learn from them. We must seek to comprehend their unique perspective, their ethical framework, their scientific paradigms. For if they possess such capabilities, yet choose to wield them with such restraint, then their guidance, their knowledge, could redefine our own understanding of existence. A new resolution was swiftly drafted, passed with unprecedented unanimity. A formal diplomatic mission, spearheaded by High Elder Jaltharn himself, was dispatched to Sector 7 Gamma 9. This time the transmissions were not of warning, but of profound apology, of genuine respect, and of an earnest plea for understanding. The galactic powers, once filled with fear and arrogance, now approached the humans with a deference born of true awe. The human vessel was not what the diplomatic envoy expected. It was not a bristling warship, nor a monumental display of technological prowess. It was a sleek, almost understated vessel, its surface a seamless, dark gray, devoid of any visible weaponry or elaborate defenses. It hung in orbit above the human homeworld, a silent sentinel in the void. Its FTL signature, while still registering as inefficient by galactic standards, had become noticeably smoother, more refined. High Elder Jaltharn, accompanied by Elder Valerius and Elder Lyra, approached in the Conclave's diplomatic cruiser, their own advanced systems projecting peace and respect. The human ship responded with a clear, calm transmission. "Welcome, High Elder Jaltharn and esteemed delegates of the Grand Conclave. We have received your diplomatic overture. We accept your request for direct contact. Please proceed to docking bay designation Alpha 7. The voice was the same, calm, measured, devoid of any hint of triumph or resentment. Upon entering the human vessel, the delegates were struck by its interior. It was not designed for ostentation, but for function and comfort, a surprisingly aesthetic blend of organic curves and minimalist design. The air was breathable, modulated to their individual atmospheric requirements, and a faint, pleasant scent, reminiscent of earthy flora, permeated the corridors. The humans who greeted them were diverse in form, yet uniform in their composure. They were smaller physically than many of the delegates, their skin tones and hair colors varied, their eyes reflecting a quiet intelligence. Their lead diplomat, a being designated Ambassador Evelyn Reed, extended a hand in a gesture of welcome. "Greetings. We are pleased to welcome you to our vessel. We appreciate your willingness to engage in direct, peaceful dialogue." Jaltharn extended a respectful limb, his clicking sounds translated instantly. "Ambassador Reed, we are honored. We wish to express our profound apologies for our previous misjudgments, our initial arrogance, and our unauthorized intrusion into your system. We acknowledge our errors in assessing your capabilities and your intentions." Ambassador Reed inclined her head, her expression unreadable, yet devoid of any trace of offense. "Your apology is accepted, High Elder. We understand the challenges of first contact, particularly when operating from disparate frames of reference. We maintain detailed records of our interactions and have been observing your conclave's deliberations. We understood your uncertainty. We chose to await direct aggression before revealing our full defensive capabilities, primarily to minimize potential escalation and to provide clarity regarding our desire for non-conflict." Valerius, his crystalline facets radiating a respectful curiosity, spoke. "Ambassador, your technology, specifically the quantum destabilization field, it transcends anything we have ever conceived. The precision, the efficiency, the lack of residual energy, it is truly astonishing. May we inquire, how did your species achieve such a mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe?" Ambassador Reed smiled faintly, a gesture that conveyed both humility and a deep intrinsic pride. "It was not a sudden discovery, Elder Valerius. It was the culmination of centuries of sustained inquiry, of relentless experimentation, and perhaps most importantly of a collective societal shift. We realized, relatively early in our technological development, that conventional methods of warfare, conventional applications of energy, were ultimately self-defeating. They led to endless cycles of destruction and resource depletion. We sought a different path." She gestured towards a shimmering holographic display that now material. Eyes between them, showing intricate, almost poetic mathematical equations interwoven with complex, three-dimensional models of spacetime. "Our approach began with a focus on understanding the fundamental fabric of reality, not just manipulating its surface. We delved into the nature of consciousness, of information itself, and its relationship to the quantum field. We theorized that if matter is fundamentally information, then its structure could be altered, unweaved, not through brute force energy, but through a precise, resonant manipulation of its underlying informational code. Lyra, her avian head cocked in fascination, chirped, "You mean you learned to edit reality?" Ambassador Reed nodded. In a manner of speaking, yes. It required a profound internal shift within our own scientific and philosophical communities. We had to overcome many deeply ingrained paradigms. It was a long, often difficult journey, but the result was a technology that is, in essence, nonviolent in its application. It does not destroy through explosion or brute force. It simply undoes. And the energy required, once the principle is understood, is surprisingly minimal, as it is a process of uncreation rather than explosive creation. It is why our energy signatures remained low, even during the demonstration. Giltharn considered this, a new understanding dawning within him. So your perceived powerlessness was, in fact, the ultimate power, a power that relies not on the overt display of force, but on the subtle, profound mastery of existence itself. And your preference for exploration, for artistic expression, these are not distractions, but integral components of a species focused on profound understanding rather than superficial dominance. Precisely, High Elder, Ambassador Reed confirmed. Our history has shown us that true progress, true power comes from understanding, from unity, and from the continuous pursuit of knowledge. Warfare, in its conventional sense, is a primitive, inefficient allocation of resources and intellect. We chose to transcend it, not by becoming pacifists, but by developing a means of defense that rendered conventional aggression utterly meaningless. We could not allow our pursuit of knowledge to be disrupted by those who still adhered to older, more destructive paradigms. The conversations continued for cycles, deepening into philosophical discourse, scientific exchange, and cultural revelation. The humans, once a source of fear and confusion, now stood revealed as a species of profound depth, their ethical framework built upon principles of self-preservation through transcendent understanding and minimal harm. Their patience, their initial silence, their calm response to aggression, all stemmed from a deep-seated commitment to these principles. They were not just powerful, they were profoundly ethical. The alliance forged between humanity and the Grand Conclave was unlike any other in galactic history. It was not born of shared fear, but of mutual respect and a common pursuit of knowledge. Human scientists and philosophers integrated seamlessly with their conclave counterparts, their unique perspective unlocking new avenues of inquiry, their transcendent technology quietly revolutionizing galactic infrastructure and resource management. The quantum destabilization field, once a terrifying unknown, became a tool for efficient, waste-free resource extraction, for orbital debris removal, and for surgical, targeted interventions that avoided collateral damage. The galaxy began to heal, to expand, to understand itself anew, under the quiet guidance of humanity. Then the whisper. It began subtly, an almost imperceptible distortion within the deepest layers of the Conclave's long-range sensor network. It was not an energy signature, nor a gravitational anomaly. It was a ripple, a disjunction in the very fabric of spacetime, emanating from beyond the farthest reaches of the known galaxy, from a region long considered empty, inert. High Elder Giltharn, now a close confidant of Ambassador Reed, brought the matter to a special, urgent session of the conclave, with human representatives present. The central projection displayed a vast, black canvas devoid of stars, yet within it, the faint, geometric undulations of the anomaly pulsed. This ripple, Giltharn clicked, his voice heavy with a familiar unease, yet tempered now by the presence of humanity. It has no known origin, no discernible pattern that aligns with any natural phenomenon or any known civilization's technology. It is alien to everything we understand. Ambassador Reed, her expression serious, consulted a data pad, her voice calm. Our deep space observatories have detected it as well, High Elder. We've been tracking its propagation. It is not moving through spacetime, it is spacetime. It's not an object, but a modification of reality itself, and the rate of propagation is accelerating. Elder Valerius projected a series of complex mathematical models. Our most advanced predictive algorithms cannot account for it. It suggests a force, or an entity, capable of manipulating the fundamental constants of the universe. It is a level of power that dwarfs even the capabilities we now understand from humanity. That is an accurate assessment, Elder Valerius, Ambassador Reed confirmed. Our quantum physicists have been working around the clock. The data suggests an event of cosmic scale, a restructuring of reality, and it appears to be heading directly towards our galactic arm. The fear, a cold, primordial dread, began to seep back into the conclave chamber. This was not a Xylar fleet. This was something far, far greater. Then the ripple intensified. On the projection, the black canvas fractured, displaying faint, shimmering lines of light, intricate and complex. And from within the heart of the anomaly, a signal emerged. It was not a transmission in any known language, nor a mathematical prime. It was a pure, resonant frequency, layered with such profound complexity that it resonated directly with the nervous systems of every being in the chamber, bypassing translation matrices, speaking directly to their deepest instincts. It was a cry, a lament, a warning. And within that resonant frequency, images began to form in the collective consciousness of the conclave. Visions of galaxies consumed, not by fire or destruction, but by a slow, inevitable unmaking. Stars dissolving, planets ceasing to exist, not violently, but with a serene, terrifying finality. And then a single, vast, impossibly ancient megastructure. A construct of unimaginable scale, spanning light years, its surface etched with glyphs of incomprehensible age, silent and dark within the propagating void. High Elder Giltharn instinctively recoiled, a shiver running through his chitinous form. What is that? What is this vision? Ambassador Reed, her eyes fixed on the evolving imagery, her voice now a low whisper, provided the terrifying answer. It is a message, a warning. The megastructure, it appears to be a construct designed to undo galaxies, to unweave them, and the signal, it's a lament from the last remnants of a civilization that failed to stop it. They are warning us. The ripple, it is the leading edge of a cosmic unmaking, a force that dissolves all matter, all energy, all spacetime into nothingness. And it has reached our galaxy. A profound, absolute silence fell over the conclave. The fear that had once been political, then military, now became existential. The galaxy, once vast and seemingly infinite, was suddenly revealed to be perilously finite. All their petty squabbles, their technological advancements, their empires, all of it was insignificant before this approaching cosmic horror. Ambassador Reed turned to Giltharn, her gaze resolute. High Elder, our quantum analysis confirms it. This is not a force we can fight with conventional means. It is not a battle to be won. It is a fundamental unmaking, but the signal, the lament, it implies that resistance, or at least understanding, was attempted, that there is a deeper truth to be uncovered. She projected new data, intricate and dense. Our analysis of the ancient megastructure's internal resonance patterns extracted from the message suggests it is not merely a weapon. It is a mechanism, one that operates on principles of extreme, cold logic, a process of cosmic entropy. But within that cold logic there are anomalies, faint echoes of a different purpose, a purpose that was perhaps subverted or corrupted or simply misunderstood. Giltharn looked at the human ambassador, a flicker of hope amidst the dread. Are you suggesting we can stop it? Ambassador Reed met his gaze, her expression firm. We believe we can understand it, and if we can understand it, perhaps we can interact with it. Our quantum destabilization technology, which you once found so terrifying, is in its essence a controlled, localized unmaking. It operates on similar principles, albeit on a vastly smaller scale. If any species in this galaxy has a hope of comprehending the nature of this cosmic threat, it is ours, but we cannot do it alone. She swept her gaze across the assembled conclave, her voice rising, imbued with a quiet power. This is not a human problem. This is a galactic problem, an existential threat to all life, all civilizations, all existence. The ancient signal, the lament of a lost species, has reached us for a reason. They wanted us to know. They wanted us to try. We must pool all our knowledge, all our resources, all our unique perspectives. The Xylar Imperium, the Cathar Collective, the Silark Hegemony, the Krill, every species has a unique contribution to make, a different lens through which to view reality. If we are to have any chance, we must face this together. As one united galaxy, for the first time truly united. High Elder Giltharn looked at Ambassador Reed, at the calm deter. Mind humans, the species that had once been dismissed as powerless, then feared as unpredictably powerful, and now stood as the only beacon of hope against an incomprehensible cosmic horror. He understood. The true surprise was not merely their hidden power, but their profound capacity for unity, for understanding, for empathy, even in the face of oblivion. He extended his limbs, his clicking resonating with new purpose. Then we are united, ambassador. We stand with humanity against the unmaking. We will understand. We will try. The silence that followed was not one of fear, but of profound resolve. The ripple of unmaking continued its inexorable approach, but now a flicker of defiance, a spark of unity, burned brightly within the heart of the grand conclave, fueled by the quiet strength and unexpected wisdom of humanity. The ultimate twist was not a greater power, but a greater understanding, and the realization that even in the face of absolute annihilation, the shared spirit of sapient life, united by a species once thought powerless, could still find a way to hope, to learn, and to strive for a future against the cold, silent unmaking of the cosmos. The galaxy had found its unlikely protectors, not in fleets of war, but in the quiet, ethical, and profoundly logical minds of humans.